Yeah.
moving in together? Oh, I don't know.
I would say two obvious things would be like the responsibilities and the money. So like, are you a dishes person, a laundry person? I don't think that's a make it or break it, but I think it helps for sure. Knowing that one of you will do one of the things and having those expectations. And just,
I
yeah.
think going into it, you should be open to the other person, their thoughts, their
Mm-hmm.
feelings, their even their expectations first.
Yeah.
I think if you go in with your own, uh, I'll say agenda, if you go in like hard headed, like this is how it
Mm-hmm.
should be, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So if
That's
you,
something we can learn every day. Huh?
yeah.
This is like therapy.
But yeah, if you go into it wanting to help the other person, wanting to be there for the other person, wanting to
Mm-hmm.
just be open for that person,
Mm-hmm.
I
It's
think that everything else falls into place then
yeah,
at that
it's
point.
respect at that point
Yeah.
though. I feel like it's, and I think what people do wrong, like people who don't work out living together, like couples wise, I think a lot of it is just they didn't have a good foundation. Maybe that sounds rude, but I just think because when you fight, you're not going to leave. Like you live together now. So you have to make sure that you have a good way to figure that out when you don't have an exit plan. Like you can't
Right.
keep running
You can't
away.
just drop your stuff
Yeah, right.
or pack your stuff and just
Yeah.
leave it after every bickering argument, whatever.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that comes down to just being honest too, because maybe you don't want to admit that you don't really have that down yet. You really have to, because don't go through all of this shit and then not be able to get over things and just have to leave all the time. The couples who do that.
Well, being prideful is a
Yeah,
downfall for a lot of for a lot of people.
that's one of the things I want to talk about actually, is like one of the things that I think helps us as a couple, but we'll get back to that. So where are we? We moved in, and I will tell two stories. Well, maybe not. I'll allude to two stories. I won't get into the deets. But there was a situation or two where I really was like, I really realized how different we were brought up. I don't know how to put this. Nobody is better or worse in this situation, but Steve's parents were more hands-on. Mine were hands-off. I think a lot of it is because of just who I am, and there were two of us. Steve's an only child, and just a lot of different things. His dad was home, like retired most of his life, like just more hands-on situation. And so I think what shook me a little bit was just how involved his parents still were and wanted to be. And I never had to really second guess privacy as much. So, and at the same time, I didn't know his parents very well yet. So there were just a couple times at our first house, Steve's house, when I was living there, where I was like, oh, okay. So they're going to be around and they're going to see things and whatever. So, that was hard, but it's just another thing you have to be honest and open to that, because nobody's brought up the same way. And you don't really have these thoughts until they're in front of you.
Yeah,
Like
so
I
you're
never,
going through the stuff.
yeah, I never would have even considered how am I going to feel if this or that? Like, I wouldn't have ever thought of myself as a private person, I guess, until something happened. And it wasn't a big deal. They just happened to go in our room, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I felt uncomfortable about that. But, it's such a small thing, but it's something that you don't even think about. So just being open-minded, like you said, and honest. And that was something we discussed right away.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah. That's just a big part of it, is the families. And that's a whole other subject. Honestly, you could do a whole podcast about the dynamics and families and being together and all of that.
We can give them the whole timeline. Moved in together and I only lived there for a couple months because then I had to go away for training.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up moving away.
Yeah. So that was I think one of the first hurdles we had was moving in pretty soon after we started dating, which went fine. And then, so we were there When did you leave? You
I
left.
wasn't even in the house for a year.
Yeah. So
Like
okay.
8-9 months.
Yeah. So then the next summer, so let's say we went one summer, and then by the next summer he was states away at training for 4 months, 3.5, 4 months.
Yep.
So then we were doing long distance. And something I also had I never thought I would be that person to do long distance. Never, ever. And I feel like it's such a lifetime ago now, like thinking back to how that felt or anything. I mean, I was able to go see him twice.
A couple times.
Twice. I think he came home once or twice. So that definitely helped. I mean, had I not been able to see him, that would have sucked. So I think one of the things that got me through that was talking to you, but also just being really proud of you. And I knew it was for a good reason, and that I trusted you. Like, I had no concern there. What do you think about that whole part of our story?
If I just like look back at everything, it feels like we're in like our third life.
Yeah.
Now, like the first, like each house.
Yeah.
Seems like it's been a different life.
Yeah.
Like lifetime. Burn Up was like a different world.
That is another place that we lived. Yeah.
And I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Long distance. Did you feel like you trusted me?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Yeah. That was never a question.
Where do you think we got our trust for each other from?
I don't know, because in past relationships, I never would have felt that comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it comes with age too. We're more grown up. And
yeah.
I don't know. And I also think it's one of those things, I am speaking for both of us because you've told me this before, but like, I think we both were on the same page, like, this is it type thing. Like, we're meant for each other.
Yeah.
That sounds so corny.
Yeah, we were both in it for each other, and it was never been a question for me.
It was never. There was one situation where I was like, what the hell? And then my mind went a little crazy. Well, so I went to visit Steve in Jacksonville. So that was one of the times I went and visited him. While I was there, I was with him. He got a FaceTime call from a girl that he was at training with. That was like, that really, I was at the point where I was like, okay, I trust him. I am so confused. Like, it came out of literally left field. So I'm like, I don't
For me too.
Okay. Well, I I didn't want to look stupid or feel stupid. I was like, this obviously is something, right? Like, who feels comfortable just FaceTiming somebody like randomly? Like, no, FaceTime is like an intimate thing, in my opinion. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
So I was like, good thing I only had a couple beverages, because I mean, I act like I would get all like mean, but I just remember being like, really like, answer it. Me over your shoulder. I was like, hi, what are you calling him for? I don't even remember what she said, but yeah, super weird. Any comment?
It was very weird to me too, because she never. We didn't have that kind of relationship. It was fucking weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that threw me.
Yeah. And I was like, okay. So always had a little weird feeling about her, but I mean, I don't.
Oh no.
Yeah, that didn't really last in my brain very long. I wasn't really worried about it, but that was just one of the things, like with long distance, you really have to have that trust, even when you're tested like that. Like, if at the end of the day I didn't trust him, that would have been an issue that continued and continued. And you both have to be that way, willing to let stuff like that go and just trust the other person without being stupid.
Yeah. And you can't be blind to stuff.
Yeah. Or just like want to look past it.
Yeah. You have to be honest with yourself.
Right.
And honest with your feelings. And confront the other person about it. Like, if you just go your whole life just, maybe it was nothing, but maybe it really was something, and you never said anything.
Yeah. Sounds like you're saying that from experience.
Not necessarily. I don't think so. No, just maybe. Maybe not more than I'm thinking about it. But,
you just seemed really like passionate about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
Lived together. I was going through job changes and stuff. Like, that's a whole other aspect of our relationship. How many times I've changed my mind and done different things. But then we did long distance. And then after long distance, we had to move right away. But we knew where we were moving. So before we went to training, we found out in the summer, and then we moved literally on Christmas Day. that year. About 4 hours away from home.
But you moved all of our stuff.
Which was another I never thought I would do long distance, and I never thought I would move away from Buffalo or from my family. Like I never, ever, just never crossed my mind. But
I'm, by the way, very appreciative. I think you know that. You were able to pack up our whole house while I was away. I wasn't able to help you with anything. You just did it.
It wasn't just me. I had help.
Well, but that's also like another big step. Or it was like another like solidifying factor, I guess, that like, wow, she's okay with me being away for these 4 months. She's packed up our whole house and is willing to move 3 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, away from her, all of her friends and family, all of her safe space to a place where she's probably never even heard of, and take that chance with me, and that meant a lot to me.
I don't know what it is about me, but I'm like embarrassed that I did that almost. I'm like, oh.
Why?
Like, what do the kids say? Simp. Like looking back, I'm like, oh my god, I'm so lame.
No,
should have played hard to get. Just kidding. No, it really wasn't a question again, and that's to each their own type situation. Like if you don't have to do that to prove that you love somebody. Right. I'm sure it would have worked out if I didn't move with you.
Yeah.
But you know, everybody's different. But for me, it was a no-brainer. I was going with him. It sucked. I don't really even remember it. Like Steve just said, like it was like a different lifetime. Like all of these different years were different times. We moved in quick. He went away. Then we went away. We lived away for 2 years.
2 years.
And then we came home and got married that year. We got engaged 2 years before that, almost. And now we have a baby who is the sweetest boy in the whole world.
13 months tomorrow.
13 months tomorrow.
He's so starting to walk.
Yeah.
He waved for the first time yesterday, 2 days ago. It's just crazy to think about.
I wasn't sure if I was gonna if we were gonna talk about this, but I feel like it kind of makes sense too. So we were tested in a lot of ways with the living together. Keep reiterating, but living together, long distance, moving away, not having anybody around us that we knew,
just
like literally didn't know anybody else. We got a dog also. I don't want to forget Luna in this, but then I got pregnant, and that wasn't. I've said this a million times in the podcast, but he wasn't an accident, but he was a surprise. The best surprise ever, but it wasn't the ideal reaction. So let's just get it out there. So when I found out I was pregnant, I had a little feeling that something could, obviously, because I had the tests at the house. So I went and took a test, and it came back positive, which you will not know that feeling until you actually see that. For anybody who's taken a test before, you're like, oh shit, but you kind of know in your head, it's going to be negative. So in my head, I was like, oh, it's probably negative. And it was positive. And I will never forget this moment. I peed on the stick, waited. Steve was just chilling in bed with, I think, Luna on his phone. He knew I was taking the test, but he always thinks I'm dramatic for taking the test. So, I came out, I was like, it's positive. And he's like, what? And I don't remember if I took another one, and then I was like, okay, it's really positive.
You took 2. They were both positive, and then you made me go get more. So I had to go to the store, grab more, and I'm like, what the fuck?
But when it was so that's when I did the 2, and then I was like, okay, I'm pregnant, and I started sobbing, and you started crying, and we were just hugging, oh my God. And I think we kept looking at each other, and I was like,
there's more shock than anything.
We were just like, shit, damn it. And then we're like, oh, well, I don't know, shoot. Yeah. We didn't really know if we were so it's not an ideal reaction every time. We didn't know what to expect at all at that point. I think
it's a real reaction.
Yeah.
That more people probably have, and they're not honest with other people about. I don't know.
I mean, and I always feel like I have to put all these disclaimers when I say things. I understand a lot of people try really hard to have babies, and This is probably so ignorant of us to even talk about, which I really don't even mean, because also, just side note, I have PCOS. I had no idea I was going to be able to get pregnant so easily. So it was a big surprise. But